Hello, my name is Jeremy West, and I'm here to tell you my story about how events in my life have prepared me to be on Survivorman. I was just your average kid. I would explore the world on my bike and would climb on anything I could find. I first got introduced to the outdoors through the Boy Scouts, and that's where I learned a lot of my camping and outdoor skills. I went to Virginia Tech University, and on the weekends I would go caving and rock climbing, but ultimately I ended up spending most of my time in the lab studying. I did graduate, got married, moved to Washington, D.C., and bought a house to settle down.
Step inside the humble abode. Fireplace, which apparently has some dubious story, such that it was stolen from a Senate office building during construction.
I've spent the last 15 years designing ships for the U.S. Coast Guard and U.S. Navy. I've gotten to travel the world and work on very interesting projects, but at the end of the day, I spend most of my time in a cubicle, looking out the window wishing for a little bit more adventure in my life. It started out innocently enough when I got my first GoPro camera, but soon I was recording everything. Trips to the local adventure park, stand-up paddle boarding. I even took a trapeze course just so I could use the camera. I never set out to be the first Warren Miller. I was just out having fun. But it was scuba diving where I first got serious about documenting my adventures. My first attempts were clumsy and full of shaky, unusable footage. Now, I consider myself to be a pretty good diver, but adding the camera added an additional degree of difficulty. But I kept practicing and honing my skills. Being greeted by a black-tip reef shark at the entrance to Putasor was a bit intimidating. This is one of Cozumel's most difficult dives as you penetrate the reef 115 feet below the surface. The crux of this dive is known as the Devil's Throat, which requires you to corkscrew your way down into the darkness before you're able to exit on the other side. I primarily used a pole camera to capture myself in the dive environment, but I added a second body-mounted camera to capture the point of view experience. What I learned filming while diving was that sea turtles and sharks and other marine life, they don't really stick around for second takes, so you better get the shot the first time. In 2010, I got involved with the National Capital Area Mountaineers, and it was here that I learned the skills that are most applicable to Survivorman. Most of our trips involve hiking several miles into the mountains with heavy packs to overcome an obstacle such as a cliff or a waterfall.
I am now filming. Tell us about your death-defying stunts today.
I'm ready to jump off a perfectly good rock. As with scuba diving, it was necessary that I become proficient with all of the mountaineering skills before I added the burden of filming. There were many new skills for me to learn, even with my rock climbing and caving background. The group's focus on safety meant that I would have to learn how to rescue not only myself, but others in the event of an emergency. Once I was proficient in the various mountaineering skills, I was able to shift my focus to documenting all of the adventures we were having. I was also able to plan and execute multiple camera angles, and play around with mounting the cameras in various positions to make the videos more engaging for the people at home. With each trip, both my mountaineering and filmmaking skills improved. When I first started making these videos, I thought only the people in them would ever want to watch them. But through our website and YouTube channel, our audience expanded to former and prospective members. With this new audience in mind, I tried to capture the entire outing and tell a story with each video. During this trip to Lewis Falls in Shenandoah National Park, I juxtaposed the calm beauty of the waterfall and the establishing shots with the chaos and excitement of rappelling through them. Even in the middle of the summer, it takes a lot of concentration to maintain control when that cold water first hits you. This is a fun way to learn if your mountaineering skills have become second nature or not. White Oak Canyon, also in Shenandoah National Park, is an 8-mile round-trip hike with 7 waterfalls and 1,400 feet of elevation change. Between the climbing equipment, ropes, and camera gear, I was loaded down with a 60-pound backpack. Even though it was the middle of August, constant rain and cold weather threatened to put a damper on this trip. However, everyone brought their positive outlook and we ended up having a great time. It just goes to show that having the right mental attitude makes all the difference. One of the downsides to filming everything is sometimes your less graceful moments also get captured. Our most difficult trip of each season is Seneca Rock, a flake that stands 900 feet above the valley floor at its peak. This is a 3-pitch, 500-foot rappel, with the first 300 feet being near vertical. These next 2 segments I include not because they showcase my film or outdoor skills, but because they reflect on some of the principles of the Survivorman show. We had just completed rappelling the first 200-foot pitch and were standing on a narrow ledge recovering the ropes. We only have 60-meter ropes, so it is necessary to pull the ropes down behind us in order to reuse them on later pitches. With half of the group already on the next pitch, the rope we were trying to recover got stuck.
Just like the beginning of a Survivorman episode, we inventoried what we had available to us that would help us rescue this rope. We came up with a couple carabiners, 3 rock nuts, and some miscellaneous cordage. Not exactly a lead climber's rack, but then again, the sum total of my lead climbing experience was watching YouTube videos. This was going to be an adventure.
Tying into the free end of the rope, we established a bottom belay anchor, and I began my climb. I used a mechanical ascender on the stuck rope as my highest point of protection, but not knowing how the rope was stuck, I had no way of knowing if it would withstand a fall. Using the rock nuts and slings for additional protection as I climbed, I managed to make it most of the way up to where the rope was stuck.
Yeah. Well, what I can do is I can traverse over to the other side on this lip and free the other end. I may try to pull it that way.
My first thought when I saw the rope get stuck was, wow, I pity that poor guy who just lost a rope. My second thought was, wait, that's my rope. I'm not trying to be melodramatic here. This was not a survival situation. We still had enough rope that we could have safely made it to the bottom, so in the worst case scenario, we could have just abandoned the rope and moved on. But once again, it was my rope and I did kind of want it back. Once I had traversed the ledge, it was a relatively easy climb to the top to free the rope. I was also rewarded with a beautiful view of all the fall foliage. On a different trip to Seneca, we had successfully rappelled the first 2 pitches and were preparing for the final drop. I was standing on a large rock at the edge of the cliff performing a final equipment check when the rock beneath me suddenly gave out. Now, anytime someone is near the ledge, we were required that they be attached to a safety line, so when the rock gave way, I knew I would be okay.
You okay, Megan? Yeah. I'm not pinching you or anything. That was what I was trying to not pull you off the edge. I knew I was going to be okay, but I didn't want you to fall. Hopefully by this point, I've told you an entertaining story and demonstrated my filmmaking ability. So now that you've seen what I've done in the past, let's talk about what I would bring to an episode of Survivorman. I believe there are 3 things that would make me an asset to this show. First, while I'm past the point where I can call myself an athlete, at least with a straight face, I am by far not a couch potato. I still get lots of regular exercise, and of course, I document all of that as well. I know the amount of effort it takes to hike 5 to 10 miles into the mountain, shoot a video, and make it all look easy. And while I'm not going to be winning any marathons anytime soon, I do have the physical stamina necessary to do this type of an adventure. The second thing that I would bring to an episode of Survivorman is my outdoor experience, and to some extent my lack thereof. I have never been in a survival situation, and hopefully, with one exception, I never will be. Back in my Boy Scout days, I could light a campfire with 1 match, but I am by far not a survival expert. In fact, due to my desire to constantly learn new things, I don't consider myself to be an expert at much of anything. It's my willingness to learn new things and absorb new information that'll make me an asset to the show. At the same time, my outdoor knowledge that I've already acquired will keep me safe and prevent me from being a liability. But the most important thing I would bring to a Survivorman episode is a positive attitude. I've been in strenuous, stressful situations, and I've seen people around me just mentally break down. Sometimes it's fatigue or bad weather. Sometimes it's just fear. They reach a point where their mind just won't let them go any further. I've seen this scuba diving, caving, rock climbing, even just going for a hike. And I found through all of those challenges that I tend to be the one that keeps the positive attitude. I'm the one out there providing the encouragement and lifting the spirits of those around me so we can get to the finish line. At the end of the day, you've got to get footage of people facing a challenge and coming out successful. Having the right mental attitude is what gets you that success. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. Even though I had to leave a lot of footage on the editing room floor, it's given me a chance to relive a lot of those experiences. I know that I'm going to continue to travel and explore and make videos like this, and I hope that one of those videos in the near future will be an episode of Survivorman.